always say, follow the breadcrumbs. And that's exactly what we did to come together. And there is truth in, like, sometimes things just have a season and a course to run and a purpose that is not meant to be forever. And it's just meant to be a little, like, building block in your journey and in your story. Unleash the untapped potential within you as we dive fearlessly into the realms of healing, personal growth, self-love, and uncharted territories of the human experience. Join us as we navigate relationships, conquer career and business milestones, and explore the depths of spirituality. This isn't just a podcast, it's a manifesto for the resilient, the ambitious, the soul-searching women and men of today. Grab your coffee and let's dive in with Beyond the Surface. All right, welcome back to another episode here on Beyond the Surface. And today I am graced with the beautiful presence of my dear soul sister and one of my best friends, Tina Addorisio, who is no stranger to this podcast, who has been here before. And of course, she is back. And I am so, so grateful for you, Tina. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me in conversation today.
Thanks for having me again.
Of course, of course. So we had, I'm just going to say it, we had technical difficulties. We're starting from scratch. We had our little voice clearing moment for, 15 minutes, and we're hitting re-record again, and we're starting back from the beginning and going with it. I'd love to start by you just having the space to introduce yourself and who you are for those that don't know you. Whatever you feel comes to mind that you want to share, I'd love for you to share.
Thank you for having me, Ash. So my name is Tina, and I am a Reiki master teacher and a breathwork facilitator. And beyond that, I am also a mother to a beautiful little boy, Julian, and I'm married to my soulmate, JP. Yeah, I always have a difficult time answering this question because it's hard to sum up what I am. I mean, I feel like I'm on this human ride, this human experience. And this year in particular, it's been quite the journey. And I know you and I have been on a journey, and which we'll dive into. And yeah, I'm really just here for the human experience. And I'm here to really just master my connection with my higher self and my discernment practice of knowing when I am moving from a place of fear rather than love, or moving from a place of ego, which is also, wrapped up in fear as well. And just really identifying how I can just really be here now.
Yeah.
And that plays in all areas of my life: work, motherhood, friendship. Yeah.
Exactly. There's the place that I'm want to start is just our relationship and the journey that you and I have been on. For those that are new to the space, we're co-running the Studio Press, self-publishing agency. We co-created Collective Voices together, and that has been our journey for 3 years. And at some point this year, we kind of decided that Ashley was going to continue running the Studio Press. Tina was going to part ways from the Studio Press. And what is beautiful and interesting, and what we were chatting about, is how, at least for myself, the things that came up, and we moved through it with grace and allowing ourselves to really feel and experience everything that came up. I felt that sense of loss. There was fear around more I would say more so, not really like fear around, can I do this myself? It was more around our relationship. And there was a lot of fears around, am I going to lose my business partner and my best friend? There was so much fear wrapped around that. And I remember just like with Phil, and I just broke down and I
Mm.
was so afraid. And, you know, him and I have experience. We all have trial and error, human design. We all have trial and error. And him and I have our beautiful trial and error with partnerships as well. So it's just, it's funny. It's funny in ways in that, you know, he was able to support me in those moments too. But genuinely, that was my biggest fear was, how does this play out between you and I? And I'm not sure if you had the same things coming up for you or what fears came up for you.
Yeah, for me, it was fear around sharing what I wanted to share. Um, I didn't necessarily have fears around you and I not, like our friendship being, I guess, changed because I knew that we were bonded on such a deeper level than being just business partners. And so I knew with space that, you know, you and I would figure it out. And I just feel like I know you. And even though when things like this occur, right, when people part ways in business or things don't go as the vision, right, the planned vision, you know, it's so important. And I, like I kind of said at the beginning, like of identifying what is your fear and when you're moving from a place of fear. And so I knew that in the, you know, heat of it all or whatever you want to call it, um, that you know, taking space to kind of collect, like gather clarity and just ground in your own feelings about what it is and how we would move forward. I knew that the space would just be a blessing for us and just give us clarity. But I knew that, like, I didn't join. I'm not. I wasn't in, you know, partnership with a mean girl or, you know, like a. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why mean girl comes to mind, where it's just like, you know, just somebody that's just so caught up in their ego. Like I know that that's not you and that's not me. And so I knew we would just find our way. And
Yeah.
in those moments when fear, you know, took over in certain decisions that were made and or certain ways we thought we were going to move forward and then we changed and pivoted, like what brought us to where we are exactly right now is the space to think and to move through our own stuff. And so something that I felt very assured by was that you're doing the work, like you're doing the inner work and I'm doing the inner work. And so if we're both doing the inner work, our paths are going to be clear. Our
Yeah.
paths are going to be clear. And, you know, and maybe if you and I were not doing the inner work, then maybe we would be moving from a place of ego and maybe we wouldn't be on this podcast right now, you know? So
Probably not.
yeah, like we didn't just run the studio press together and create collective voices. Like we are woven into each other's lives, right? And our weekly Monday meetings. And it wasn't just about what are we doing, it was about how are you? Like Ash, how are you doing? Tina, how are you doing? And my goodness, when I think back, I think of all the meetings I showed up as a hot mess because Julian wasn't sleeping through the night. And it's like, wow, the space was there to be held. And sometimes our meetings went on for 2 hours or whatnot to get to move through and discuss what we're going through personally and then jumping into, okay, what are we doing for the studio press or how are we going to serve and show up for our clients? And yeah, it was all beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah. One thing that comes up is kind of, I don't know why, but I always think about men and women and how we just operate differently. And I don't know if you I don't know if this is an all men thing, but I know it's very much me and Phil. For him, if work and business is good, then I could see the impact of that on our relationship. Things are good.
Mm.
And the difference being, if my home life, if me and him are good, then my business is good. And it's
Mm.
this opposite and this dance. And I guess what made me think about that is, as two women, and I don't know if you feel that in your relationship as well with JP, but that comes up for me because it's like, as women running a business and co-creating together, how do we not have something or space or hold space for each other to just check in? Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
And there were so many times, I mean, I would come to you as well, crying about my relationship, and I don't think we're ever going to get married. And then
Oh, yeah.
lo and behold, I remember you saying that to me
Behold.
one time.
Yeah. Lo and behold, we were part of the planning. Well,
Exactly.
we
Exactly.
weren't part of it. Phil invited us to be part of it. And it was so timely, those days when he would tell us the plan and then you would come to our meetings and you'd be upset about it. In my mind, I would think, oh, girl, you have no idea what we're planning. You're going to be so happy. Just stick it through.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was so funny. It was so funny. But there is just that aspect, right? As women, and when you can really lean into that part, and this is where I think, like, no matter what, there was that trust that, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll find our way back home to each other with
Mhm.
whatever that meant for us. But when you first mentioned, like, the aspect, like the time and the space, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we both needed. And sometimes that is what everybody needs, is that space and that time. And sometimes we're impatient, we're forcing, we don't want the space and the time, but there is so much that can come from that space and time as a gift for yourself and for the relationship, if it is part of a relationship. But all of it's funny because I can't not think about where we are today. Like, maybe for some people it feels new that they're hearing, this studio press and us not being in, like, full on business partnership. But for us, it feels like it's already been, I don't know, a while.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at where we are now, and I'm just like, I always say, follow the breadcrumbs.
Mm.
And that's exactly what we did to come together. And there is truth in, like, sometimes things just have a season and a course to run and a purpose that is not meant to be forever. And it's
Mhm.
just meant to be a little, like, building block in your journey and in your story. Because I truly, my both my partnerships that I have been in have taught me different things. My first partnership was like, wow, I actually want to have my own business. I want
Mhm.
to pursue this, because
Mhm.
that was never something that was in my world. No one in my family was an entrepreneur.
Right.
And then our partnership just peeled back this other layer of who I was and really unlocked a lot for me. Gifts, trust in myself, and just
Mhm.
this, like, deeper, yeah, it was just like it was a lot deeper. And I understand the purpose of it. I understand the purpose and the period, and it not being a forever thing,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And you know what's coming through? I mean, I picked a card before our conversation and it says, it's actually from the Womb Oracle deck. And it says, this soul chose you. And as much as this deck is all about like pregnancy and creation, really the messaging behind this card is we chose each other.
We
We
did.
had a soul contract. And girl, I don't think it's done. Like I think you and I are going to create other things. Um I don't know what yet, but I know that we will. And so it's like we've chosen each other to be in this. And you know, it would be such a shame for it to create fear in us to ever pursue other partnerships or even a collaboration together. Because if we're just moving from our heart, we're never going to make the wrong decision. And you and I do that so well. We're never going to make
Beautiful
the wrong
body of
decision. Like ever,
beautiful body
ever,
words.
ever, ever. And every decision that we make, our life is always going to be built around our decisions. Like it's always going to work. It's always going to work itself out.
Hmm.
And yeah, it just will. I don't know how. I don't know how things just come to be, but they really do. They really do. And um, yeah.
Yeah. I have chills because it's so funny when you pulled the card and you brought the card and we were talking about how you were feeling tender and thinking about also the miscarriage that you had this year, and then us restarting and just seeing this card. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because what also people don't know behind the scenes is that yes, we have this deep love for writing and for empowering people to tell their story, and for this journey that we went on with the Studio Press and Collective Voices. And we said yes to going into business together. And there's even more to it where our lives were almost running parallel to each other.
Mm.
Our childhood stories, not
Hmm.
everything, but some of those really big moments. It is mind boggling to see how we can just relate and we understand each other, and we can create space for ourselves in those moments. And so it is actually such a beautiful thing when you can look at every single human being who comes into your life as a purpose. Like,
Hmm.
I don't mean to say that with just like, there's so much depth to that. There's so much depth when you can look at every single moment that comes your way, every single person, every experience, from the job, from your boss, from your siblings, your parents, children. There is so much purpose in all of it. And
Mm.
sometimes it's just like we step out of it, we take that bird's eye view and just like step out of it for a moment, then we can actually see what's happening.
Hmm.
And it's impossible not to see it in the most beautiful way, at least for myself. Like, I just, there's so much, it's like you said, if you move with every decision from a place of love, how do you not see love all around?
Hmm.
The beauty of life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I this year, I mean, you mentioned my miscarriage, so I'll just touch on that a bit. Like this year was just so incredibly expansive and hard at the same time. And so this year, I bought myself a journal called the Shadow Work Journal, and it's a guide to integrate and transcend your shadows.
Mm.
And because I thought, how can I be experiencing so much expansion and at the same time so much fucking grief.
Yeah.
And so this journal has been so incredible. And there was this one exercise that I did, and it's all about wound mapping and mapping out and identifying what wound you have. And so I'll just share a little bit quick. It's just funny how this book is just right here in this room where we're recording. So there's four different wounds. One is the abandonment wound, one is the guilt wound, the trust wound, and the neglect wound. And so
Mm.
something that I identified just based on different things that I have experienced, and usually your wounds are, established when you're younger, was the abandonment wound. And it's all about fears of being left, feeling left out, if someone threatens to leave, um, hates being alone, or like there's a bit of codependence with the abandonment wound. But what I realized as you were talking was that going through this experience together, we actually were helping each other in our shadow work without, sitting down and doing your shadow work journaling. We actually embodied it and made decisions in alignment with doing the work, doing the shadow work. What comes up for us? Like for me, the difficulty of really letting other people know how I really feel, because I don't want anyone to feel like I've left them or abandoned them, or that, the trust is going to be broken, because that's not what I'm about. But it's just interesting how these things have come through, and you and I, in our decision to part ways with the studio press, we're still collaborating for Collective Voices, and I'm sure many other things. But even just to part ways for the studio press, in that we were faced with doing some shadow work, like
A
some
million
big fucking shadow work that you and I both probably didn't realize, maybe until now. I don't know. But
percent.
yeah,
That everything that you just said around the abandonment,
yeah,
yeah, I'm like, I went through all of those. A
yeah.
million percent. I went through all of those. And what also comes up is there feels like, in a way, that through our decisions, through our choices, through choosing love, and I mean that very strongly, choosing love as opposed to the fear, there's this almost like breaking of a pattern of,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like that it doesn't have to be that way, because that's what I've seen my entire life is
Yes.
the abandonment and the fears and the anger and the hatred that comes from that. And yet, in a way, we went through it, and in a very short amount of time, yes, we took space, but the space wasn't long.
I know.
It really wasn't a long, I don't even, I truly, I have no idea what that space was, but it wasn't long. And
Yeah.
because we've been on this journey already, it was easier to choose love.
Hmm.
It's not always easy to choose love, but choosing love is always such a, I want to say, a rewarding thing, but that doesn't even feel like it explains it enough.
Mm.
Yeah.
And something that came through as you're talking is, through so much change, especially, you know, just through so much change, let's just keep it general. Through so much change, often we can spin our own wheels and think, what did I do wrong? Am I not enough? And all these kind of patterns of unworthiness or not enoughness, or these things that really just keep us so glued to fear. And it's not even about that. But this is the human experience, right? Like we have this ego, right? Our ego is part of our personality, and not even our own ego, but things we've observed in others, and maybe how others have gone about doing certain things that maybe we're about to do. And
Mhm.
maybe we've seen people move through things with grace. But for me in my life, like I remember, talking to somebody about this. Maybe it was my mom, and I was saying, I feel that I need somebody to model to me what a conscious love, like a romantic relationship is. Like I'm looking, when JP and I met, I remember I was just like looking out, okay, can someone show me and model this for me? Because I feel like it's really hard sometimes to always be pioneering in your life. And when you're not finding it anywhere and you're like, okay, well, I guess I just got to figure it out on my own and go within, right?
Yeah.
And so um, I think, you know, not ever having witnessed a business partnership dissolve, well, I guess those are technical terms, or just me coming out of the studio press. Um, I had never witnessed that. Like I've never known that, right? And so pioneering, how do I do this? How do I do this? And just going back to the heart and trusting, okay, this is not about me not being enough or Ashley-Ann not being enough, or this is not about me having a pattern of, um, not speaking up because I did not even have the clarity about this
Mm.
decision until the clarity came.
Yeah.
I didn't know. It's like you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know until I knew. And when I
Mhm.
knew, I was like, "Oh, okay. I got to be clear and I got to be honest." But
Yeah.
it's almost like I think back and I think, "Okay, like could I have known sooner?" No, I couldn't have.
Yeah.
I even reflect in that in my past relationship, like way back. Could I have known sooner? Could I have done anything different? No, I think we all need to live things out and play the part that we're meant to play. Like I said, and we were talking about our souls had a contract,
Mhm.
and that,
Yeah.
and the studio press was the contract. And
Exactly.
it created so much for us and held space for so much for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I want to acknowledge you for, because it's not easy at ever to just speak so honestly, because of fear sometimes that we are hurting someone else that we deeply respect and love. And I have always admired and appreciated and loved the way that you would always communicate, especially in the last year. And when I say that last year, you know what I'm talking about, from like fall to,
Mhm.
when we made that decision. There was so much honesty that you brought forth that served us in the partnership in a way, and also to take an honest look and not to avoid things, to really look at things. And it gave me so much permission to look and evaluate and to also be honest as well. And I always want to acknowledge you for that, because I know it's not easy
Mhm.
to go first.
It's not
And
easy.
you went first so many times, and I'm so grateful to you for that. And it's something that I think about, like, the women in my life, and I'm like, I want a little sprinkle of this from this person, a little sprinkle of that from this person. And that is something that you really honor yourself. You really do, in so many ways. And I know that's not easy, as a mom, as a wife, as, a business owner, as a friend. It's not easy to do that. And you do it beautifully, and with so much, yeah, just so much, there's so much honesty in it, and
Mhm.
imperfection too, because you don't have all the answers. You come from your heart.
Appreciate that.
You're
I so
welcome. You're
appreciate that. I
welcome.
think I learned that in my marriage. JP, when we met, we had come from different pasts as far as relationships. And I think maybe something that we both had in common was like not necessarily telling the truth, And so we said at the beginning of our relationship, like, let's just tell each other the truth, even if it hurts. Like, let's just tell each other the truth, Because when someone shares their truth, it's not about the other person. It's about the person that is
Mhm.
sharing the truth. And I will acknowledge you in you did that so beautifully. And you did not make my truth about you. You did not make, even if it impacted you, you never, like, you didn't take it personal. And even if you had your moments where you took it personal in your own private space, that's just part of the human experience. I think we all do that. But with the space that we allowed, we were really able to reflect and know that, hey, she might feel this way or he might feel this way or whatever we were dealing with. It's not about me.
Mhm.
And okay, so now what can we do from here?
100%.
And you did that so amazing, like so beautifully. And so I remember thinking, oh fuck, this is gonna hurt. This is not part of the vision. This is not part of the plan. And at the same time, I just knew that like how could I show up in our even real friendship, right? And so,
Mhm.
but you held that space so
Mhm.
beautifully, so gracefully. Yeah.
Thank you. And I reflect on how that I was able to do that, and I think what it comes down to, and this kind of little like flash came in earlier when we were chatting at some point, and I love that it's kind of circling back so I can share this. I think part of how I was able to do that and not take it personal, because there was definitely moments that maybe you never would have known, but I was really like, I I guess in some way I was thinking like I'm not good enough and what did I do wrong? There was definitely a moment of that in that breakdown that I had. But what I think has allowed me, especially now, but throughout the entire think to step and get in the way of who you are meant to be and what you are meant to do.
Mm.
Because I have witnessed you in coaching. I have witnessed you in this unraveling and uncovering of these innate gifts that you have. All I could think about was who am I to get in the way of that and stop that. There,
Selfless.
yeah, there was just no way. And what's beautiful is this was modeled to me through someone who was a very important person in my life, and in ways she still is. And we had a falling out. Oh, it's like 8 years ago now. And when we connected, this was something she actually said to me because of my relationship with Phil. And she said, if a marriage comes out of this, then that's the most beautiful thing. And who am I to get in the way of that?
Mm.
And it was such a beautiful moment. But time and space
Yeah.
is the thing that allows us, no matter how many years it was that took her to get to that space, but it took us,
Yes.
6 years to have this conversation. And for that to come out of it from the time and the space was such a gift for me. It was so healing for me
Mm.
in so many ways. And I think about that in this moment and what we've experienced. And just seeing you now, I'm like, sometimes, as much as we don't like change and we try and resist it, we try to hold on for so long,
Mhm.
sometimes the thing that you have to let go of, that you are trying to hold on to for dear life, is the thing that is getting in the way of the next thing.
Mhm.
And sometimes there really is that clearing out so that you can have more space, right? Like you see it all the time. People outlive their space.
Yes.
They outlive their space, they move. What
Even though they
happens?
love their space, they
Even though
still
they love their
grow
space.
it and need to move. Yeah.
Exactly. And they move into a bigger home and more blessings come in.
Well, I'm so
Yeah.
grateful to that person that modeled that for you, because I think that, well, we need those models. We need those models. We really do. I mean, we can literally write a book on this, of everything that's been modeled to us at our times of like being at a crossroad, you know? And that's so important. It's so important. And I think it's so important. And I know, there's a quote around this, or like we hear this all the time of, we become who we surround ourselves with, we become a piece of that. Like you said, I like a piece, I want to become a little piece of what that you are, and then about her, and you're kind of creating who you are, and you're calling in this energy in your field, so that way at any given moment when shit hits the fan, because it will, light, that is life, my gosh, that is life, you have these models and this energy to lean on, and then it
Mhm.
becomes you. And it's like, because we embodied the way we went about um, our partnership at the Studio Press, I feel so confident that in any collaboration or any partnership that I get into from here on out, that I feel that I am, the driver of my own boat,
Mhm.
of my own decisions. Because the worst thing you can do in partnership, and I remember dipping into this a little bit with us, but a lot with my ex boyfriend from
Mhm.
years ago, is the blame game
Yeah.
of giving that person all the power for the reason why you ended up where you did. But that's not it, because we've had the power all along. We had the reins to make the decisions for ourselves all along.
Yes.
And so, there's been a lot of growth, and it's been beautiful. And through the growth, there were experiences that needed to be experienced. But yeah, through time and space, it feels so good to just be here, and
Mhm.
and holding this perspective and this perception, and you and I having, I don't want to say salvaging our relationship, like preserving our relationship and what we had built and what we have, and me and JP get to be in your wedding party, and like, how beautiful is that, and how
Exactly.
wonderful is that? And we get to just be part of your life with Phil, and then all the other things I'm sure we're going to create. And so, yeah, it's just been such a blessing. How could we see it
Mhm.
any other way? Really?
Yeah. And I think that's also the beautiful thing when we can, talking about like offering perspective, it's just sometimes there's this like end all be all energy too. It's like it has to be this or it has to be that. And that is such a limiting perspective to have and to hold, if it's just it has to be this or it's nothing. It's all or nothing, right? Like
Yes.
imagine we had that energy or that attitude, we wouldn't be here if we had that. Um so even just the reason that comes up is just like, where can you also just be open to this, that just cracking the door open a little bit more to change, a little bit more to not having a this or that, to like just an other journey, and just not feeling this stronghold, because you just never know what's on the other side. You just never
Yeah.
know what's on the other side.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
how you're being called to step up and lead, like you said, sometimes requires changing where you are. And it's
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable, you
It
know?
is. It is.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Is there anything that you feel called for what's going on in your world to share? People want to experience you in your energy and in your magic. Is there anything that you want to share?
Yeah. So it's funny because I chose this card. How are you being called to step up and lead? And something that I've been really, really working towards and really desiring. But when I desired it, it was almost like it couldn't come together, because maybe prematurely desired, but this year I've worked towards my Reiki master teacher training, and I have always wanted to not just share my gifts, but help others access their own, or even just realize that they have their own gifts, and to become so confident in their intuition, their intuitive hits, their gut instincts. And so I'm going to be facilitating my very first Reiki level 1 certification program. And I got chills saying that. I am so over the moon excited. And now looking back, I see why I wasn't supposed to do this. Like even just like last year, which is not that
Yeah.
long ago. And I literally had to go through certain life experiences. Yes, of course, my training, but certain life experiences that helped me embody and really know when my intuition is so strong and so guiding me literally on point. And so I am so excited. So that's happening in January, at the end of January, in the GTA. And yeah, so Reiki level 1, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And skill sets that I learned being in partnership with you at the Studio Press are coming into play because I'm writing my Reiki manual. And that manual is going to be a living textbook for the people that are learning from me. And so I really take that to heart, and I take that, I don't want to say with seriousness, but I'm really putting so much of my heart and soul in this manual, this workbook, this, I don't want to say it's like a textbook because it's not a hardcover, but it is a manual. It is a workbook for them to have. And I mean, my manuals and my workbooks, like they're highlighted, there's notes in there, like they are Bibles for me. So I feel like I'm creating a Bible, a very
Yeah.
significant piece that will be in the hands of, those that choose to learn with me. I don't want to say from me, but with me, because I think what they're going to realize in this training is they have had it all along. And that's the most beautiful breakthrough that I cannot wait to witness in each and every one that participates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you. And I know it's going
Thank
to
you.
be for anyone who chooses to take that leap and for themselves, they are going to experience so much magic and so much breakthrough in your energy. Speaking from experience, just saying, speaking from experience. But you know what, too? I also feel like I remember you talking about some sort of facilitation program. Like
Yeah.
maybe it was last year, or maybe I don't know, at some point. And it's just also cool to see that all the
Mhm.
pieces weren't there just yet, and now all
Yeah.
the pieces are there, and it all
Yeah.
just
To
makes
not
sense.
rush things.
Yeah.
Never rush, never force. And when you're in
Hmm.
that space, it's okay, play in that, but then
Yeah.
there's gonna be trial and error in that, and just expect
Mm,
that because,
exactly.
things are just flowing so effortlessly right now because I'm not forcing, and it's like, "Oh, so this is what it's like to just, like, be in that full trust of, oh, this feels like an initiation into, okay, Tina, you're ready. Step in. This is your
Mm,
time." And it's like, "Okay." Or before I was not ready, and it's like, "Come on, go, push yourself," and it's like
yeah.
just the energy behind it wasn't, I don't know, it didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel in integrity with my values. So, just there's no better time than now for this, and it's such a beautiful step into what I really feel my soul's here to do. And, I brought this image of my great grandmother with me as a baby. I just have it in my healing space when I do Reiki and breath work for others. And it's because of this woman that I literally held this hope and belief in what I was uncovering about myself as a child, because she had told my mom something specific about me when I was a child because she took care of me. And so she got to know me and got to know my energy. And the things she saw in me before I could even speak, that she told my mom that I'm so thankful my mom shared with me has been a guiding light. I can't even tell you. It has been a guiding light. And yeah, so it's been wonderful to
Mhm.
have had that story shared with me, the power of story, right? So yeah, it's just beautiful.
It is. Oh, I am so grateful for you and this conversation. And I really, there's so much that can be taken from this. And I just trust that whoever is meant to hear this, it lands in their lap somehow, some way, shape, or form. And of course, if you are feeling called to enter into the world of Reiki, I'm going to leave the link to you so that people can get in contact with you. And this was just so good in so many ways. So thank you. I appreciate
Thank you so
you. I
much for
love
having me.
you.
I love
Thanks for
you.
being here.
Of
And
course, always.
yeah, and we will see everyone in another episode. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Make sure to leave a review and continue the conversation with me over on social media. And we'll see you in the next episode.